how do we learn to guide our mind? If we learn to guide our mind, we truly become the master of life, as in the artist of our life. And your soul seeks to intend its life. That's actually a huge, high, very high desire of your soul. I've got a 3-step process to learning how to guide your mind. So step number 1, learn to observe. What does this mean? I'm not talking about zoning out. I'm not talking about spacing out. I'm not talking about being disengaged. I'm talking about learning to observe yourself, learning to observe your habits, learning to observe your thoughts, learning to even observe your movements. So when you come to the space of observing, you are in your place of power. What does this mean? I'll give you a simple example. So let's say you really enjoy a certain type of exercise, running or tennis or yoga, whatever type of movement you enjoy. Instead of being so heavily identified with the movement itself, can you step back and say, wow, those are my hands in a downward facing dog. That's amazing. It's a place where you zoom out and get a much bigger perspective, where you can say, wow, my hands, they're lit up by this incredible energy, and my mind is asking my hands to root on my yoga mat for my downward facing dog. Or if you're a runner, that feeling that you get where it's like you're almost floating. It feels like you're like lighter than air, and you're running along and you just feel like something's carrying you. This great energy is carrying you, and you feel like you're a racehorse. You could go on and on and on forever. Come to the place of the observer and start out with the activities that are familiar to you, the most familiar, whether it be cooking or knitting or even reading. What do you most love? Come to the place of the observer and watch your experience as you become immersed in that activity that you love. Some paths call it being in the state of the witness, but I really like the term observer because it's more interactive, it's juicy. So the second step is learning to trust the field from which you observe, and this is such a personal experience. No one can take that journey for you except you. So this field from which we observe is called by many names, and it's honored in many traditions, and it's a deeply personal experience. It's called spirit, it's called the Tao, it's called the quantum field, it's called the space of consciousness, it's called source, it's called God. It's called by these many, many terms, but beyond that, it's an experience. And when you start to become the observer of your own thoughts, your own habits, your own life, you'll notice that you feel carried and supported. You notice that you'll feel lighter and more compassionate and more balanced. Do you trust a field that beats your heart at night? Do you trust a field that breathes you at night so loyally? Do you trust this great wisdom, this wise field that teaches the tree to grow from seed to sapling to full tree, to the fullness of the tree, to the bounty of the tree, to the fruiting of the tree? And then it's so wise that it takes the remnants of the tree and re-nourishes the soil. We remind ourselves, for those of us who are on this journey, we remind ourselves on a daily basis that that wisdom is pretty phenomenal. Do you trust the field from which you observe? That's step 2. Then, from there, step 3 is knowing that you can start to choose and intend your thoughts and your experience of life. And this is where it gets exciting. When you're deeply connected with that field, with that experience of the field from which you observe, then you'll notice that you can start to intend your thoughts. You can intend your experience. You're not a victim to the energies of the world. You start to become very clear on how you resonate. You're doing your life. Another person can do their life. You're honoring that experience in them, but you're very clear. I'm doing my life this way. I'm staying within this alignment. I'm staying with goodness. I'm staying with positivity. And I'm going to intend my life this way, and I'm going to put those actions into the world. That's so exciting. And you know what? All it takes is practice. We just have habits, conditionings, old patterns that no longer work for us. By putting a new habit into place, a new awareness, there is such wisdom to a force that keeps Jupiter out there reflecting asteroids away from Earth. Amazing. The journey is so worth it. It's a 3-step process. We do this together. We constantly remind ourselves to be awake, to stay awake. Let me know if you have any questions, any thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. And subscribe here for more encouragement, enthusiasm, and intellectual understanding that hopefully we integrate into our experiential wisdom.